It's time for Windows Weekly. Paul Thurrott's here. Yes, Mary Jo Foley is back from her trip to Vietnam and Cambodia. And it's going to be a great Windows Weekly. We've got a lot of parsing. You've got a lot of parsing to do. Stay tuned. Windows Weekly, the reunion episode is next.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Windows Weekly is provided by CacheFly at CacheFly.com. It's time for Twit's annual audience survey, and we want to hear from you. Please visit twit.tv/survey and let us know what you think. It only takes a few minutes, and your anonymous feedback will help us make Twit even better. We thank you so much for your continued support. twit.tv/survey. This is Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott and Mary Jo Foley. Episode 406, recorded Wednesday, March 25th, 2015. Back from NAM. Windows Weekly is brought to you by NatureBox. NatureBox ships great tasting snacks right to your door. Start snacking smarter with wholesome, delicious treats like dark chocolate pretzel pops. To get your complimentary NatureBox sampler, visit naturebox.com/twit. That's naturebox.com/twit. And by Casper, an online retailer of premium mattresses for a fraction of the price, because everyone deserves a great night's sleep. Get $50 off any mattress purchase by visiting casper.com/windows and entering the promo code WINDOWS. And by Nitro. Nitro accelerates the way businesses create, prepare, and sign PDF files. Anytime, anywhere, saving you and your business time. To learn more and try it free for 14 days, visit gonitro.com/twit. That's gonitro.com/twit. It's time for Windows Weekly, the show where we cover the latest news from Microsoft. Paul Thurrott is here from Thurrott.com. In his command center, deep within the snowy earth of Dedham, Massachusetts. I don't know where he's going.
He's disappeared.
Wait a minute.
I'm back.
As you say, filling in for Mary Jo Foley this week. Who is this person, Mary Jo Foley? Nice to have you back. Tanned, rested, relaxed. Welcome. We missed you terribly.
Aw, thanks. I heard you had some great guests in my absence.
Yeah, you know, Dr. Pizza and Danny Rubino and, you know, the usual suspects. But I have to say, and, you know, we can now take the Mary Jo Foley portrait featuring Joe Belfiore's throat and retire it for another year. You may not take another vacation.
Okay.
Yeah. But I have to say, the sways you sent were incredible. We looked at them each week. Jealously. Nice. Yeah. Wow. What was your favorite part?
Yeah. Oh, man. I have to say I really loved being on the boat in Halong Bay.
That's the one I want to do. I love those pictures.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yep. It was a little chilly. It was like 65 and cloudy, but it was still really great. And then going to Cambodia was amazing, but not my weather. 100 degrees with 85% humidity.
Give me chilly. Give me chilly.
Yeah. Me too.
But I'm going to contact you because I would really like to do the Halong Bay thing. That looked beautiful.
It was amazing. You would absolutely love it.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
So we have world travelers on this show. Between Mary Jo and Paul, they're never in the country. They're always gallivanting about the world. Mm-hmm. That sounds like fun. So welcome back. We missed you. But back to work for you, understanding Microsoft's evolving business model.
Yep.
It's ever changing.
If you don't mind.
Yes.
We're not done yet congratulating Mary Jo Foley on being Mary Jo Foley. I would like to add that this first story came about because of Mary Jo Foley.
She came back from a beautiful vacation and immediately filed a scoop.
But here's what's amazing about it. This thing that this is the event that this was based on happened a week ago, right?
Yeah.
So when Chris Capicella gave this talk, everyone wrote all this stuff about convergence, you know?
Yeah.
and including me.
Yeah.
And then Mary Jo shows up like a week later, and she's like, "Hey, by the way, this is the real story."
OMG.
And then Microsoft actually wrote a blog post just kind of re-explaining it because it became a story again.
Wow.
Because of Mary Jo Foley.
Oh, well, let's
my point is simple, Mary Jo, which is this: do not ever go away again. What is wrong with you? We need you.
And while you're away, stop reading the news.
Yeah.
And doing.
I did. I actually was very seldom online during that trip.
Wow, nice. You can't. There's no internet on a boat on the Halong River.
No, there was no internet in a lot of places, or it was kind of iffy. So I did not read all these things. But when I came back last Thursday late night, I started reading, and this one just jumped out because we know Chris Capicella. He's the head of all of marketing of Microsoft. So I was thinking the guy must have had something to say. He was keynoting Convergence, which is Microsoft's business conference, and he did have something to say. He was talking a lot about at this conference about what it means for Microsoft's evolving business model to have this component of services now that are free. Because everyone's saying, okay, Microsoft's always made their money by charging for Windows and charging for Office. And now suddenly they're doing all this stuff with making much of Office for iPad free and Office for Android is free up to a certain point. And so he came on stage to explain, okay, we know we're giving away a lot of stuff these days, but here's how we are rationalizing this in our own minds and how we think about the fact that we can move from this freemium model to actually make money off of all these people. So that was the gist of his talk. And he talked about a lot of things we've already talked about in the past on Windows Weekly, how Microsoft's giving away more things free, how they think that they ultimately can upsell customers once they get them in. Once they get you interested and willing to try something like Office for iPad, then they think they can upsell you and get you to subscribe to something like Office 365 Home or Office 365 for Business.
Well, that's what the freemium model is, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And he just he basically went through this bit by bit and said, here's how we think we can do this. Here's where we see the cutoff, for example, with Office. When you get to a 10.2-inch screen, we start charging you. And he really just laid it out in a very clear way that we hadn't heard Microsoft execs really say to this point. So that was his keynote. And I just read through the transcript and I said, you know what? He actually explained something that everybody's wondering. How are they going to make money going forward, moving from software to services? And that was it.
It was really, honestly, it was major news, not just because we knew about their plans with Office and all stuff, but he was very specific. And he even mentioned for the first time, I think, that the free differentiator is based on a screen size, much like it is on Windows, although it's a different screen size for Office. So once you hit 10.2 inches, you have to pay for Office, right? And what that means is that as Office gets more feature-packed on mobile platforms, especially Android, where there are 10.2-inch and bigger tablets, and maybe will be on iOS later as well, that won't be free because those things get closer to being a PC. And so now you need to start paying for it. And so that was actually really, really big news. It was kind of amazing. And I did not catch any of this until Mary Jo mentioned it.
Well, you were kind of busy while I was gone. There was a lot of other news I noticed.
I was not slacking off. But, I mean, it's interesting just how that kind of cut to the chase,
Yeah. The other thing he said that was really interesting to me, too, was, and this is something we've kind of felt happening, but we haven't heard somebody from Microsoft say this on the record. He said, from now on going forward, we're going to really make Microsoft the brand that we emphasize with our products and services. Instead of having like Xbox plus Surface plus Windows plus Office, he said in the past we've had all these divergent brands, and from going forward, you're going to see us really emphasize Microsoft as the Uber brand and forget about all these separate campaigns that emphasize all the other sub-brands. Also very interesting and kind of brings together things that we've been hearing and makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and he specifically said that future Microsoft, I think he said Lumias or phones, but specifically phones, I think it was, would have a Microsoft logo on them as the logo. In other words, right? I think the current Lumias for Microsoft actually say Microsoft and then have the logo. And what he was suggesting is that we're just going to go with that logo, the brand, which is a new approach. Because if you think of like how Surface is, I think Surface Pro 3 probably says, actually I can just look at it.
I think it just says Surface.
It says Surface on it, right? And I think the first version of Surface, the first gen, had a Windows logo on it. And so presumably Microsoft devices now will emphasize that brand over whatever product brand, which is itself a big change as well.
Is this rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic, or is this a substantive?
No, this is branding, Leo. It's really important. Well, I think I do think, all kidding aside, I actually do think it's important because we do this too. I mean, this podcast is called Windows Weekly. We get kind of wrapped up in these product brands.
Yeah.
And what Microsoft is saying going forward is that the important bit is Microsoft. On the enterprise side, the business side, which is most of Microsoft's business, they're not looking for a product to move to the cloud, as he said. They're looking for a partner, and that partner is Microsoft. They want people to think Microsoft. I was a little surprised by the day that they had on the recognition of the Microsoft brand, the Microsoft logo, that, the Microsoft Store style logo that they have for Microsoft. Consumer recognition was very high. I think it was 65, 67%. People would look at that and say, that means Microsoft.
Right.
In businesses, it's between 80 and 90%. So that's actually helpful to them going forward, because as Windows becomes less important, as the Office brand becomes less important, as Server kind of disappears, they rebranded, remember, Azure from Windows Azure to Microsoft Azure. It's the Microsoft brand that's important. And I think that's how the company sees itself going forward, not as these big pillars, but as was one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you feel like there's some big move in the works that would make this all make sense? Well, I mean, somebody.
What do you mean, Leo?
Well, what if Microsoft acquired a cell carrier or something? I mean, what if?
Well, this may be tied into a lot of different things. For example, we have this story coming up about Microsoft striking deals with Android device makers to put Microsoft apps on those devices. Microsoft kind of recognizes that in the mobile world, people are not walking around with Windows devices. That's true on tablets. It's true on phones, especially. And that in such a world, to get its, to push its vision for productivity, it needs people to think of Microsoft. And if they can get these Microsoft apps on devices, I mean, that itself is, I think, an important part of this strategy as well.
I guess what I'm saying is this feels like, first of all, it's great that they're opening the kimono a little bit. I don't know if we have have ever been told exactly what they're thinking, but it does seem kind of incrementalist. So there's two interpretations. One, everything's hunky-dory, and so we don't really need to make any big changes.
Yeah.
Or the other would be that
margins collapsing.
Yeah. The world ending.
Sure.
No, I mean,
we've been talking for a long time about how the world's changed, right? The mobile world.
And they need to recognize that. Yeah.
Windows is dominant on PCs. It's not dominant in mobile and compute in what we might call personal computing.
They were a platform that dominated, but the world's moved out.
I think who was it? COO Turner. Kevin Turner said last year at the Worldwide Partner Conference that Microsoft represents 14%, right? Was that the figure?
Right.
Of
it was
personal computing now, platform-wise.
Isn't that
they know
amazing? From 99%.
Yeah.
But so the difference is, but Microsoft has still consistently made a lot of money.
They're profitable, right?
You've seen things go downhill a little bit, but it's not been dramatic. I mean, at some point, these things have to catch up to each other. And I'm not saying that Microsoft emerges as a much smaller company and that the floor is about to fall out from underneath them or whatever. But, I mean, they're not making these changes arbitrarily. They're not giving away Windows for free. They're not giving away Office for free because they, out of the goodness of their heart, they love humanity. And, we don't want to disadvantage iOS users or whatever. I mean, I'm sure from a profit revenue standpoint, this is going to have to catch up.
Are they going to rebrand Xbox to Microsoft Box?
Microsoft Box.
Nah, no. I don't think so. But I think because given his role, Chris Capossela's role, he's in charge of a centralized marketing organization now for the company. And before last year, they didn't have that.
Right.
Marketing was done by each of the divisions by themselves. They had different ad agencies, different ad campaigns, and Capossela is saying, marketing is basically reflecting where they're going
Right.
as a company
Right.
now.
Which is great.
the
They have
one
a
Microsoft
unified
thing.
voice.
They do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They do. And he said several times in this talk that he gave at Convergence that I can't emphasize enough what a huge change this is for the company. Like when people are outsiders and they are looking in, I think they say, well, yeah, that makes sense. One marketing, blah, blah, blah. This is just not the way things have been done ever at Microsoft. Giving away stuff for free is not in their DNA. This is to get people inside to think that this is a good idea and that ultimately it's going to help them make money. That is a gigantic mind shift for the people who work there, who've been there a long time. So I think some people say, oh yeah, it's new words or new wine, old bottles, whatever. But I really think it's a very different approach for the company than they've ever had.
Okay.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah. And it's great to hear it articulated. This is part of Satya Nadella's reorganization of Microsoft.
It is.
And I get, they're
sometimes
trying
words-
things. You can't not
there's
get
been
forward with
a
that.
lot of talk. I mean, I think for all of the praise that Satya Nadella has gotten over the past year, I mean, I look at a lot of it, and a lot of it's just kind of talk. And I don't mean that to criticize the man. I mean, there's things, you have to come out and, talk it up. But a lot of it's just talk, and until you make specific actions, your theories about strategy are just theories,
Right.
And so, we'll see how this goes for them. And we'll see, you asked about the Xbox, for example. Obviously, they're not going to rebrand it to Microsoft Box, but equally, obviously, there's like this really strong Xbox brand that includes a logo that people know and understand.
Right.
And so Microsoft devices are going to have Microsoft logos on them, apparently. Well, what about the Xbox? Are they going to start using a Microsoft logo on the Xbox One? Probably not, And so,
Well, even if they
we have
did,
to
so
see.
so what? I mean,
Yeah.
so they're.
Yeah.
I mean,
it
really,
doesn't improve their position.
this is my question. This is sensible, unified, blah blah blah. But putting a Microsoft brand on stuff is, if that's their strategy.
Sure. Well, think of this though. Remember, one of the big complaints we've had in the past was Microsoft was too quick to throw the name Windows on anything.
Right. Right.
And the first time they really publicly acknowledged that, I think it was with Windows Azure, where they said, this thing,
just
even though
Azure.
obviously it was based on server, essentially, optimized for the cloud, et cetera, is no longer Windows. It's not just it's not like a version of Windows you run in a VM in the cloud. It's its own platform, and so it's just Azure.
Yeah.
And so maybe they take it on a case by case basis. But in the past, Windows Azure, regardless of the merits, that would have been the name, and it would have been the name forever. Because everything's Windows.
So the freemium thing, that's obvious, and you see there's plenty of businesses doing this. This is the thing to do in mobile. So I don't think he's announcing something that nobody's thought of, but it's good to know that that's what their strategy
okay,
is.
so if you are a mobile game maker, my son plays this game that's advertised on TV. It looks like Farmville to me or whatever, but he knows he amazed me by knowing not just the name of the game, which of course he would know, but knowing the name of the game maker, which I thought was crazy.
Right.
This is a new company, right? So this is probably three guys in their parents' basement working out of some place in Chicago
making
or something.
$18 million a day.
A day, yep.
On in-app purchases.
In a freemium model, right?
Yep.
But that's a new business. Office is a business that generated $4 billion in revenues every single quarter for like a decade. So moving something like that to freemium, I mean, that would be like a car maker suddenly announcing, hey, we see these electric cars are really taking off, but we're going to give you this BMW. We're just going to give it to you. And, maybe you'll pay to upgrade to a better stereo or a camera that looks backwards or something, but we're just going to give you the car. It is kind of a big deal because it's an established business that generated so much money.
Well, but it's an acknowledgement that it's
not
an
a new
established business that looks like it's about to falter, right? Isn't this an acknowledgement that the world is changing?
Yes, but the old Microsoft would have ridden this one into the ground.
Yeah.
Right? In other words, it's not. That's what I mean by talk versus action. It's not enough to say the world is going to mobile and we all kind of nod our heads. Like I think the thing that's interesting about what's happening now is they're doing it. They're taking those steps. I think someone like Steve Ballmer or Bill Gates would have had a much harder time taking these steps because they were the ones that rode
Legacy.
Office and Windows to the top.
If there's one word associated
hard
with
to do.
Microsoft, it's legacy. and that's
backwards
changing.
Compatibility.
Yeah,
And,
yep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think on that note, I think this stuff is a big deal. It really
Yeah, and
is
I
a
guess
big
all
deal.
I'm saying is it enough?
Oh no, they're screwed, Leo. But I still think
I don't mean to say that either, but
no, of course. But
putting the
it's a very
Microsoft
natural-
logo
it's right
on
to
everything
ask.
isn't
Yes.
going to. That's not.
No, and that's the branding part. It's part of what he talked about, but I feel like the parts that were more interesting were how do you get to upsell people when you give them something free?
Yeah.
That's one interesting question they're dealing with. And one of the examples he cited was Office, and he said, we're pulling new users in who've never been Microsoft users with Office for iPad, and then we're trying to show them the benefits you get if you're willing to subscribe to Office 365, like what else you're going to get. But another example he pulled in was by taking Microsoft products that in the past weren't always marketed together and making them something that's a bundle that Microsoft might also have another way to upsell. So he cited there the Surface, and he said with Surface Pro, we are trying to show people why if you buy that device and you get the pen, and the pen has that OneNote integration built in, how you start thinking, okay, I bought a Surface and there's this pen, and that's kind of cool. Oh, and if I click the top, I can use this thing called OneNote. I've never heard of that. What is that? Let me play around with that.
And then they give it away free.
They give OneNote for free. You buy the pen still, but it's kind of that idea.
No, I understand, but this
if we
is
pull them in.
It's funny when you say it that way, but it's like we've been working on the software.
the opposite of
freemium. You can have it for free. But by the way, you got to buy
It's
the
a pen.
It's always
You're buying a pen.
it's always an upsell thing for them, right?
Apple
It's
selling
not
a watch, we're selling
That's
a pen.
premium.
the gold pen.
There is, I mean, you could, I'm sure Microsoft's doing this. Talk to people who do this kind of a model. They may be a little disappointed when they hear the actual numbers. We interviewed on Monday the founder of Personal Capital, and I've interviewed Phil Lieben. Both of them have a freemium model where they give it away, and then they hope you'll upgrade to a paid
It's got to be a tiny percent.
5%.
Yeah, 5.
Typically
So by the way,
5 to 10%. Now, I hope Microsoft knows that number, right?
I'm glad you actually brought up numbers because some of the numbers Chris Capicella provided in that speech were very interesting to me. Microsoft has been saying for a long time that there are over 1 billion Office users, active Office users, right? That's been the number for a while, over 1 billion. What he said, and I'd never seen it broken down like this before, was he said that Microsoft sells about 70 to 75 million copies of Office in a year, which frankly isn't as high as maybe I would have expected for a product that has 1 billion users or whatever, but that's the number, he said. And he said, so think about, we're giving away Office now on mobile, right? iOS, iPhones, iPads, and then Android devices as well. And all of a sudden, in less than a year, we have, the way he said it was 40 million more downloads on phones that previously weren't running Office. It's not 40 million copies of Office, right? Because those downloads are split over 3 apps. And so, it's 10, 11, 15, whatever million per app or something like that. But when you consider... So in the light of like 1 billion users, 10 million people not paying for Office doesn't seem like a lot. When you consider it compared to 70 or 75 million copies of Office sold in a year, actually, 10, 15 million is a pretty good percentage. And then, you said 5%. I mean, so what's 5% of 40 million? Of those are the people who will pay for Office. How does this compare to selling outright 70 to 75 million copies of Office a year? I don't know, but I mean, that's the fundamental question. How do you take this thing that we used to do one way and make a lot of money, and now we're doing this other thing a different way? How much money you're going to make? I don't think it's ever going to be the same, frankly. But the question is, how good is it going to be?
There's a precedent for this. Feld in our chat room is reminding us that Microsoft gave away Internet Explorer, and it was able to buy market share by doing that. In fact, put Netscape kind of out of business by doing that, the paid solution. But this is a different world than that.
Yeah, right. I would be very careful about comparing something today from something 20 years ago.
Yeah, true.
All right, let's take a break. Paul ThurrottMary, Joe Foley, back. We're talking Microsoft. We're talking Redmond and Windows. And you mentioned, the shocker, Microsoft on Android. We'll talk about that in just a second. Our show today brought to you by NatureBox, the place to get your snacks. Not that snack machine in the back of the building or, the ice cream shop down the street. NatureBox, these are healthy snacks, nutritionists designed with you in mind. They're delicious. You'll enjoy them. And right now, NatureBox is giving you a chance to get a complimentary trial box of their most popular snacks for just $2 shipping. Look, it's hard to make the right choices. Snacking's not a bad thing. I think a lot of people will say small meals throughout the day is better than giant meals. But when you're looking for a quick pick-me-up, it's a bad idea to go out and get a donut or a candy bar. You want NatureBox. NatureBox has hundreds of delicious, nutritionist-approved snacks. They're so good. Zero artificial flavors, never any artificial colors or sweeteners, no trans fats, no high fructose corn syrup. And the flavors, sweet, savory, spicy, they're bold, they're good. In fact, what'll happen, I think, and it happens to me, is you'll find a new thing that you just can't live without. Like orange apple fruit chews, or their Gorp, which is they call it antioxidant boost. Roasted nuts, dried fruit, and dark chocolate. I could eat this by the bagful. What's nice is all the NatureBox bags are resealable, so you can have a handful and go on. Try those delicious dried pineapple rings. I had dried figs from NatureBox yesterday. Incredible. The yogurt pretzels. Oh, you know you're going to snack, so get smart about it. With NatureBox, your free trial awaits your complimentary sample. naturebox.com/twit. Stay full, stay strong. Start snacking smarter. naturebox.com/twit. We thank them for their support. Windows Weekly, Paul Thurrott just fell over.
I know. What happened there?
Are you okay?
What happened?
There was there was kind of a noise there at some point.
Oh, I realized I had not gotten any water, so I rushed out to go get it.
Oh, good.
That was
good.
Probably the sound of ice crashing into a glass.
The ice from the roof.
Yeah.
You had so much snow. Did it cause problems with your roof?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
In certain parts of the world, ice dams are just a common occurrence in winter. And though we get very bad winters here, we generally have a couple of days of warming between storms where the ice, melts off the roof, at least, and you're fine. Right. And this winter, that didn't happen for the first time in my entire life. And, we had roof damage. We had the gutters were destroyed. We have Weiss and water in windows, which we have to replace now. We have water damage in the house because the water got it.
But the good news, the roof rats are dead.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
The cats have been kind of acting strange.
Microsoft strikes a deal with, this is amazing to me. Now, it started with Samsung. The Galaxy S6 will have OneNote and OneDrive bundled in. Not the full range of apps that we thought maybe. Now they've announced 11 more tablets will come with Microsoft apps. Is it the same too? What are they doing?
So it's more than just OneNote and OneDrive. It's also Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Skype.
Wow. I guess Skype was on the Samsung as well. But that's a big deal. That's like that's more what I thought was going to happen.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I think that's what that was what was rumored to happen with Samsung. And so Samsung's one of the 11 that they announced this deal with. Dell is one of the 11 for its Android tablets. And then the other ones were mostly regional OEMs in places like Germany and Russia and Canada. But yeah, it's a pretty sweeping deal. These are going to be bundled when you get these out of the box. They're going to have these Microsoft apps pre-installed.
This is the freemium model.
It is.
And what's the upsell?
Yep. So the upsell, I think, on this is, maybe Windows Phone. Or you have to sign in with a Microsoft account to use these, right?
So you're going to make an account.
You're going to make an account. You're going to start trying it out. If you like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and you want more advanced features that aren't available in the free version, you have to get an Office 365 subscription to unlock them.
And that includes Outlook, right? They're not bundling Outlook.
Outlook is not in it, but the reason it's not, Microsoft told us, is because Outlook is still in preview for Android. And they said there may be opportunities going forward that we add Outlook to this too.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yep.
So this echoes the strategy that we kind of guessed for that Nokia Android phone. What was it, the X? that they were going to sell in the
Nokia X,
yeah, the developing nations was an Android phone with all the Microsoft services instead of. But these Samsung's not going to not have Google apps or Google services.
No, they can't. Not to get the full Google Android, install. They also can't be defaults, right? Because those Google apps have to be defaults. So it's not as good as a Microsoft phone, but it's better than nothing. The question I have about this has to do with the Android licensing deals that Microsoft has, right? They've only been rarely challenged in court. Microsoft actually hasn't done very well when they have been challenged. I wonder if this ultimately replaces those deals, that some of these licensees might come back and say, hey, we'll put your apps on there, but you have to get rid of this baloney cross-licensing stuff.
Well, didn't Samsung and Microsoft bury the hatchet? Isn't this?
And I think this is part of it. And I think they might have used that settlement as a template for these other deals, So we'll see. Right now there's no major OEMs on there other than Samsung, at least not worldwide type hardware makers. They're big in the Android world.
Yeah.
So we'll see if any of the other ones jump on.
Pegatron's on there. Pegatron is a pretty big original design company.
Yeah, ODM.
And one that Microsoft did have a patent relationship with. So that's interesting.
So to recap the history of this, Microsoft has claimed patents on Linux, which is the fundamental operating system behind Android. And we always kind of assumed that they were getting maybe $5 a handset for every Android device sold. Then in Discovery, we learned last year that Samsung had paid $1 billion per year.
Just Samsung did, yeah.
Samsung, $1 billion. And then Microsoft sued, saying Samsung has fallen behind on its payments and owes us.
Well, Samsung stopped paying,
Well, whatever. Fallen behind, stopped paying. So, they want to repossess Samsung.
So Samsung and Microsoft came to an agreement. We don't know what it is, but it's impossible to think that this has come out of whole cloth. Like, this is obviously part of that deal. So it's interesting that they're doing this with other companies. We'll see. When and if Microsoft's patents are challenged in court, and if they continue to fall apart the way they have, at least so far, this may be how they redefine their relationship with these hardware makers, which is to enter into this kind of a deal, which, frankly,
in other words, forego the $5 or whatever per handset.
Sure,
that's
to get
lot
your
of money to get your app. Is it worth
a lot of money.
$5 for that?
It's a lot of money, but it falls into that category we were talking about earlier, where your business is changing. I don't think that this patent licensing thing is necessarily sustainable, simply because the challenges that have existed so far have damaged Microsoft pretty badly. So, we'll see. But I wouldn't be surprised to see this the start of a different kind of deal on Microsoft's behalf, which is that we'll get our apps out in the world, and maybe we don't have as much money coming in directly from just you selling competing systems.
I hadn't really thought of the connection between those two things till you just said that. I did with Samsung, but I didn't with like Pegatron and Dell,
Sure.
But it kind of makes sense also because last week in my catch-up reading, I saw that Microsoft signed 2 more Android patent deals, but they don't call them out as Android patent deals. One was with Melco, which is the company that's the parent to Buffalo, and the other one was Fuji Xerox. And Microsoft said they were renewing their renewing cross-licensing patent deals with those 2 companies. But when I asked them, is this an Android patent deal, they declined to comment in both cases. They said, we're not saying what kind of patent deal it is. But before, when they did strike agreements with those 2 companies, they were Android patent deals specifically.
Right. They've always been very proud of these deals.
They have. They love to put press releases out saying we signed a patent deal
because
with an Android
that
vendor.
Bolsters their arguments against others who are not yet paying license fees.
Well, so and especially these smaller companies that don't want to spend the rest of their lives in court, just paying court fees.
All we can do is speculate. We don't know what the deals are. We don't know what the patents are. They have never revealed even what they are, right?
Right.
Well, some of them have come out in court.
They did. Some came out in documents. Right.
And they're exactly as ridiculous as you think they are. Most of them are pretty.
Do we know what the term is? Are they about to run out? What is the term on these things? I don't even remember. Is it 16 years, 27 years?
They're all fairly recent. The one I can recall that did stand up to challenge was related to Exchange Active Sync. which is probably, the moment where Google stopped supporting it or whatever. But, that was the one that that has withstood a legal challenge so far.
Design patents are 14 years. I guess
the ones they just renewed with Melco and Fuji Xerox, they were from like 2007 and 2009. So that they renewed them recently.
Let me just tell you, if you're trying to figure out patent terms, it's very handy. The United States Patent and Trademark Office has an Excel spreadsheet, a patent term calculator that you can use.
And I hope that the spreadsheet is in a proprietary older Office format and not an open XML format.
No, it's Excel. It's an XLS. Last updated last year. It must be complicated.
That's
we could only speculate what's going on here, but that all sounds sensible. Yeah, well, what else we're gonna do, right?
What are we here for?
It all sounds sensible, and but this also speaks to that freemium model. If we can get more people using Microsoft services, more people trying Microsoft's Office, maybe we can convert some of them. I'm not into math. I'm not good at it, but I still look at these big numbers and I just wonder, when does this start to make sense? I mean, even, I don't know, Mary Jo might know off the top of her head, some single-digit number of millions of people are paying for Office 365, right?
Yeah.
Something like that?
The home and personal ones, it's 9.2 million total subscriptions they've sold, but we don't know how many of those are paid, right?
Oh, I don't know. Okay, so maybe some of them are paid.
Sorry, I'm wrong. Those two are paid. Those are paid.
Okay.
Yep.
So, I mean, at an average selling price of, I don't know, $80, $85 a pop, multiplied by what you just said, under 10 million, this is, it's not like it's not $1 billion business. That's all I'm saying. And so I just wonder.
Yeah. Here's the argument, and I'm also am not good at math. Funny, we're both writers. But here's what they say. They say in the past we've sold you Office for, however many $100 per copy once, and sometimes you upgrade it every few years, and sometimes you don't upgrade it for a really long time.
Right. Now,
if we convince you to subscribe for, say, $75 a year to one of these Office deals, we're going to get you every year. And there's not going to be a chance for you to say no, because if you do stop paying us, you're going to have to get your documents out of OneDrive, and you're going to have to do a lot of things like that if you want to continue to edit them, right?
Plus, there's inertia. People tend to continue to pay much more than they would go into a store and pay $400 for.
That's fair. Although I have a very hard time. I don't know if this is morally or whatever you want to say with it. Microsoft's changing business. There's something very clean and honest about saying, I have made something and I'm going to sell it to you and you're going to pay for that thing. And if the future of Microsoft's business is you subscribe to this and you just kind of forgot you were paying it, that isn't as clean or as honest to me.
I'm with you, but you are buying updates. It's kind of the volume licensing model applied to across the board.
But if you look at the broader market for the types of people that would be people really that are using Office, I guess the argument here is that the vast majority of them don't need the features that they're paying for. That they could get by with the free stuff, and even on Windows,
that's the problem.
You could run the mobile version of Word and Excel, and that's probably enough for most people.
That's the problem.
The amount of storage they would need in OneDrive will not exceed the 7 or 14 or whatever they're giving away for free now. Ever.
That's why you get a 5% conversion rate on freemium models, because most people go, this is good.
Right. I mean, look, I'm a professional writer and I barely use any of this stuff. But I mean, I honestly, for me, the sell for Office going forward, the reason I would get it, aside from, I mean, I'm sort of a power user, I guess, and could argue that I use some of the features. But honestly, the big one going forward is something that didn't exist when they invented Office 365, which is this: free unlimited storage on OneDrive. Yeah. Because now I'm starting to pump a bunch of stuff into OneDrive, and that's valuable to me. And so $99 a year for the family,
you're really not paying for Office. You're paying for OneDrive.
I'm really, exactly.
Really, the truth is.
And that's the trick, right? So we're assuming Office is standing still and staying the same, but it's not going to. They're going to keep adding new things to try to upsell you, right? So OneDrive is an example. They're going to come out with other apps. If you're a business customer, they have things like Delve, which is that new Pinterest type application, boards that you can pin things to.
Somebody dies a little inside every time we call this Pinterest, by the way.
Just trying to remind you.
You're right.
That's what it looks like. Sway,
right. And right now, a lot of those things are free. All these new apps are coming out with they're free, but they're going to keep throwing new things out there. And whatever sticks is going to be like, hey, you want an Office next year? You're going to have to pay for this or that. I think that's how they're going to do it.
Sure.
And the question is it going to be compelling to somebody like me, who's a Notepad user?
It's hard for me not to think of this as a Hail Mary. I'll be honest with you. It really
It is.
Yeah.
But what choice do they have?
They have no choice.
They don't.
And I think it's a credible Hail Mary. It's not too far-fetched.
Right.
But I'm with you, Paul. But if you think about it from a business from Microsoft's point of view, it's a lot easier to account for a steady stream of revenue than big bumps every unpredictable amount of time. They much prefer volume.
You're right. But the thing is, those big bumps were really big.
Oh,
and
yeah.
This company made a lot of money.
But that was another problem for me as a consumer. That was too big. I walked away from the boxed version of Office. I wanted it, but good Lord.
Sure. I just think it's funny. Office 365 is actually a tremendous deal. I also recognize that most of the stuff that you get, most people don't really need, And it's kind of funny now that you're throwing a little bit of money every year at something and you're getting, by the way, 5 free copies of what is essentially Office Professional Plus, a product that sells for like $479 at retail. It's a crazy value.
But do the math. Because I bet, they know, they've done the math. If you upgrade every 5 years, what's 5 times 75? You're spending more money. And in a consistent way that they know people, there's inertia. So I think I understand why they're doing it, and I understand why as a consumer people might not be happy. But where the rubber is going to meet the road is, do people need it? Or are they going to be very happy using free alternatives? And there are lots of them.
And they're not, by the way, those free ones are getting better.
Yeah, and I mostly use Office Online these days.
Which is free.
It's free. The OneNote version of that is really good. Word is fine. Excel is okay for basic needs. I don't do macros and things like that. So, they're making it better and better, and it's kind of a chicken and egg, right? Like, you don't want to make it too much better, because then no one will ever upgrade. But I don't think they're in danger of that. The people who need the really advanced features of things like Excel and PowerPoint, they're business customers are going to upgrade.
You know what they need? They need the Bill Gates internet memo. They need somebody to say, this is to understand where the world is headed. And because this is an ugly transition.
By the way, that memo exists. It was written by Ray Ozzie about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And nobody listened.
Right.
And they are really...
He knew.
He really did.
That was his thing, collaborative software, cloud software.
And by the way, that's exactly what OneDrive is now. OneDrive is essentially his legacy. This guy saw this coming, and nobody asked.
You can see, there's lots of examples of companies that, you can see this coming. It doesn't necessarily mean you can make the transition. If your business model is shrink-wrapped software,
sure.
Moving into a cloud platform.
What is Kodak today?
They knew. They saw it.
Polaroid?
Kodak saw it coming. Kodak was very clear. They made the digital transition. They did everything right.
Seeing a tsunami coming is not necessarily very helpful.
Yeah. Kodak's problem was that the profits in developing and film and printing it were far higher than the profits in digital photography. And so they couldn't have they didn't have a business model.
It's funny, I think Office does have a future, a viable future, a good future. I still wonder whether it's, ever going to hit the levels that it did during,
I don't think it has a viable future.
Okay, but
I don't.
Well, I do. But,
well, isn't business okay? Well, but really, I'm a consumer, so I don't think consumers really need Office.
I think there's a.
But what about business?
There's a natural need for this kind of thing in education, and giving it away in education and then making businesses pay for it later isn't actually a bad strategy. And I think Office has a role there.
So many schools are going with Google.
I know, I know. And that's the thing they have to counter. But, something like Windows, Windows is obviously fantastic. on PCs, and it hasn't done as well. I happen to think it's fantastic on phones. I think if they had taken the phone OS and turned it into a tablet thing, that would have been more viable than what they did. But it kind of doesn't matter because that stuff hasn't taken off in any meaningful way. So, a lot of what we talked about kind of falls into the same category. Microsoft brand is what matters, not Windows, that deals with these Android device makers. Getting the businesses and the services and the products out to the platforms where people actually are is more important than pushing a dead horse.
Yeah.
Perhaps.
It's a great case study in business.
Yeah.
And so few companies have made the transition. As
are there?
Like that.
Right.
There are some, I think, and I'll be honest.
I wonder what we could equate this to. Like, what business changes? What companies have successfully navigated from dominance in one market? The world changes,
right? And
now they're. It would be like if Standard Oil was the, the number one and only car manufacturer in the world today, or something, or
right.
What do you even compare it to? I'm not even sure.
I don't think. I mean, there's so many counterexamples.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Failures are easy to find.
Yeah. And what's interesting is this is not unique to Microsoft. This is happening to the giants in the tech sector, like Google and Facebook and Apple. They all have to reinvent themselves. They're all, Google's doing moonshots trying to find new businesses.
You probably saw this today. It was a story in the New York Times about how Netflix, Hulu Plus, and I don't know, whatever, one other service, Amazon Prime, are all now not the up-and-coming challengers to the status quo. They are the status quo.
So fast.
Now there are other video services challenging them.
Yeah.
And it's going to be goofy stuff that sounds silly to us now. Just like Netflix sounded goofy to HBO. Like, oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, nothing to worry about there.
Anyone can stream video on the web, but you can't make content like we do. So, the world changes.
Yep.
But okay, so I'm trying to think. You know what? Word processing is not the place to put your flag in the sand because people who do.
Leo, as a writer, I could not disagree more.
But your needs are simple, and most are. Leo, maybe in a law office if you're doing pleadings and you need special revision tracking, but that's a small market. That's a vertical. Excel, on the other hand, is superior to any other product out there.
Still a vertical, though. Still a vertical.
Well, yeah, it's a vertical, but it's finance. It's a big vertical.
And every kind of business uses Excel.
We use Excel.
Not just And
Lisa will not. She's tried Google
it,
Sheets, and she says, "Nah, I need Excel."
Yeah, it's cute. It's cute.
I need Excel. I need pivot tables. Whatever the hell those are.
Yeah, it's good.
But what else? Are there other analogs to that? Because I think you have to. I have to say, email and word processing.
Sure.
We give up. We give up. We're not going to. There's no way I can invent a word processor that's going to make people buy a shrink wrap box. Period.
Yep. I don't think there's any software on earth that would make people buy a box. Even
Excel
Adobe software is going to be all online.
Yeah, it is Creative Cloud. Adobe, by the way, has made this transition to subscription. Yep. I'm not saying to success, to subscription. Yep. And because of the nature of the professionals who use Adobe, anybody who's paid for Photoshop is just as happy to pay a monthly fee.
Yeah, around $800 for one version versus $99 a year for everything. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Maybe Microsoft should have priced itself out of the market, and then this would have been an easier transition.
Well, there's also not as much. There's not as much competition.
Yeah.
You can't do Photoshop in the cloud very well yet.
I think I made this observation on the show a couple months ago, but you go back and you clean PC stuff I'm doing. You go back to Windows 7 and you use it. You put Office on there. You get a browser on there. You do your stuff. Windows 8, Windows 8.1, Windows 10. Frankly, after a while, it doesn't really matter. Microsoft just put Office 2016 in preview form on a Mac, and I don't really like the Mac per se, but honestly, you kind of boot into it. You run Office. It works, and you get on with your life. And there's a web browser, and it's the same kind of stuff. Like, what's the difference? At some point, this stuff that used to be so burningly important to people who are tech enthusiasts is the least interesting part of the whole equation.
Yeah.
We're all wrapped up right now in Windows 10. We've got 25 Windows 10 stories to burn through here. And the truth is, at the end of the day, what does this change for us? as users.
Is Microsoft Word the front page of the century?
The front page.
Front
No,
page.
that's like calling the Facebook the AOL of something.
Oh, man.
AOL.
We did. We went there.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Well, it's looking more and more like that, isn't it?
Did AOL have developer shows? I don't remember.
It probably did.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
All right. You said Windows 10. You said the magic word.
Yep.
I have upgraded
There's a lot going on.
my phone now to, not the Lumia 1520, but I have upgraded the
635 or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, what do you think? A little early.
Yeah. And I chose Fast Track. I now understand what you're talking about, the Fast Track and the normal track or whatever.
Yeah.
Slow. Do they call it slow track?
Yeah, they
Slow
do.
ring.
Slow ring. So I chose Fast because I like to live on the edge.
It's not that much of an edge. There's
Hardly any edge there.
There's, yeah. It's a dull edge. Maybe that will change.
We spent a lot of time with Ed Bott on on Sunday talking about this license thing, this giving away Windows, this making pirates whole. And you had the story, and a lot of people did this. Man, not so fast, pirates.
Yeah.
So tell us about that.
Mary Jo, did you catch this little?
Yeah.
This is one of the
I did.
frou things that happened while you were gone.
This is WinHEC India or whatever.
WinHEC China, right?
China.
China.
That's right. China.
Well, the thing is, Reuters, reputable news source, right, interviewed Terry Myerson, the guy who runs Windows. And I look at their story, I look at what he wrote and what he said to them over the phone, and I think, it sounds like he just said we're going to give amnesty to pirates.
Yeah.
I mean,
Ed's take on it was that the lawyers got a hold of it at Microsoft. Said, whoa, Terry. Eli
By the
Gold
way, okay,
came
you
in
know
there
what?
and said, what are you doing?
Okay, so maybe we'll know that story someday or not. I hope that's what that was, because I'd like to think that Terry Myerson, who I think is a good guy and wants to do the right thing, does want to give this thing away. That he wants to get everyone on Windows 10 for very practical reasons, right? That they don't have to ship all these stupid versions of software updates for every single supported platform, because there are 13 of them now, and it's really hard to keep everything updated. That if everyone would just get on Windows 10, we could all move forward together.
Yeah, makes sense.
I don't think there's anyone.
It's kumbaya.
Maybe there are. The world's terrible, but I'm trying to imagine someone out there in the world saying, I paid for Windows. Screw those guys. That kind of thing. I mean, who pays for Windows? You just get Windows. You buy a PC. You don't buy Windows. I think getting these guys upgraded is the right thing to do.
But who he's talking about really is China.
Yes, where
Right?
the vast majority of Windows usage is
Pirated.
Yeah.
Because you're absolutely right. Most normal Windows users in the U.S. and Europe and so forth, they don't buy Windows. They get it with a new machine. That's when they upgrade. They're covered.
My very first personal experience with Windows, I was an Amiga user. Windows 3 had come out, and I went down to the computer shop. I knew the owner, and I said, listen, I got to get a copy of Windows 3 to just check it out on my wife's computer. And he says, yeah, it's like $79 or whatever. I said, I don't buy Windows. Like, nobody buys Windows. I just want to look at it. Nobody seriously uses this thing.
Well, he also Ed mentioned the hole in the wall system integrators who install one copy of Windows on 20 machines. But I can't imagine that's really a big problem for Microsoft.
The way products are activated today, such a machine.
And anyway, so what happened is after Terry gave that interview in Reuters, it was qualified, right? What he said was qualified.
heavily qualified. I think you might say it was contradicted.
They said, well, you'll be able to upgrade to Windows 10, but it won't make it genuine.
Right.
Yeah. So, right. Which means nothing has changed.
Yeah.
Because the only thing that's changed since Windows 7 is that the ability to download an actual working ISO of Windows is now easier. But if you don't have a product key to activate it, the existence of that ISO doesn't help you unless you want to run it for a limited amount of time or whatever. So nothing has changed is what I got out of this.
So you think you'll upgrade to Windows 10 and then 30 days later you'll get a notice to say this isn't a genuine copy of Windows, as you would expect.
Yep.
And if you don't have a serial number, you're out of luck.
But here's the thing. I mean, China's obviously a special case, but they're giving it away for free to Windows 7, Windows 8, and Windows Phone 8, one user, whatever versions. I mean, come on, really? Just give it away. I mean, for the first year, this should be, like the companies that want to bring their profits from overseas into the country, or the immigrants who want to come into this country. We need to have this like temporary amnesty program and just let this happen for a little while, suck it up, and then we'll make sure everything's legitimate going forward. I think this is the right time and place to do the right thing with regards to the pirated versions of Windows, but they apparently are not doing that.
So you know where I think the confusion was, because I was looking at the original Reuters story, and what Meyerson said to them was, we're going to re-engage with hundreds of millions of users of Windows in China. He didn't say the pirates when he said that. And if you read the rest of the announcement they made at WinHEC in China, they also talked about working with a lot of the OEMs to have kind of like centers where people can go and have assistance with Windows 10 and have people get them on board and upgrade their machines to Windows 10. So I think these were two separate statements. So
you think this person, the reporter, completely misunderstood?
I do.
Because these centers in China that you're talking about are like when they send letters to known felons and they say, hey, we're giving you one a free boat. Come down to the police station and pick it up.
No. They said they were going to work with companies like Lenovo and Tencent, didn't they? Yeah. As part of that announcement. So
no, I know.
I think they did. So I think what happened was there was kind of like this leap of faith here, like, oh, they mean they're going to give pirates amnesty, which I don't think Meyerson ever said. He said we're going to upgrade everybody who's genuine and non-genuine to Windows 10, but he never said to genuine copies of Windows 10.
But when you upgrade non-genuine, I mean,
it's like, why would honestly, you do it? Right? I know, right. But I think if you really, really look at what he said, I can see that what happened here. I think, can see how this happened.
Microsoft employees live in a kind of a bubble, and they speak an acronym and they speak in their own little language, and they use their own terms. And
true.
It's very plausible that he might have been speaking in a way to him that made plenty of sense, and that the woman or man or whoever he was talking to at Reuters, I don't know who wrote the story, just not speaking this language, took him at face value in normal English, and
that's why you guys are so good. You speak Microsoft,
yeah,
and you can parse what they're saying.
Yep.
But Microsoft does need somebody
who can communicate.
Yeah, who could? Well, no, but it could be an internal person who just says, "Terry, okay, now you need to go and say, let me clarify what I said because that wasn't what I meant."
Microsoft people, it's like they still talk about schedule pluses, right? Which are the old calendar meeting invites.
Yeah, I know.
They use terms like let's take a bio break.
Yeah.
When they need to go to the bathroom.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, guys, seriously.
Yeah. They should never send a Reuters reporter to cover a Microsoft event.
No, that guy covers Microsoft. I think it was that guy. So anyway, I think it was just kind of a convoluted message. And like you guys are saying, why even bother upgrading somebody to a non-genuine copy of Windows 10? Right? It's
well, why you could do it, but why make a point of it?
This is so good, I'll pay for it.
Yeah, maybe that's what they're hoping.
Like,
maybe
really?
they're saying, like, the whole upsell argument again. Like, we're going to give them Windows 10 and they're going to like it, and then maybe we're going to have a better chance of upgrading them. I don't know.
I'm with Paul, though, that if you're going to do the freemium thing, this would be a sensible part of that.
Yep. This is the crossover point. The other, the other approach, which I think would be less effectual, especially in China, but would be to say, okay, this version of Windows is non-genuine. Click here to upgrade. You'll get it at a discount. We all know it's free for the first year, but maybe by that point we'll know what the actual cost of this thing will be if you were to buy it. And maybe you get it for half off or 2/3 off or some amount. Yeah. But I actually don't think that will change a thing in China.
Yeah.
As soon as you put a dollar sign or a
it's not sign,
free. They're not listening anymore. Okay, so that's one of 25 stories about Windows 10.
Exactly.
What else we got?
We have a lot more Windows 10. Let's
do a break, and then you could do a whip around. Yeah. A Windows 10 whip around. Because I want to talk about sleeping right now.
No offense taken.
Well, I had a very good night's sleep last night. In fact, I've been having a very good night's sleep a lot lately because thanks to Casper. Casper is the craziest idea you've ever heard of. crazy like a fox. Casper is a place you go to buy mattresses online. Now, wait a minute. You may say, I need to lie on my mattress. I need to sleep on it. Well, you can't really sleep on it in those mattress showrooms, I might point out. You line up about 5 minutes before they start giving you this stink eye. Last time I bought a mattress before Casper, that's exactly what I did. I lay on it in my street clothes with my shoes on. Said, yeah, this will do. And I hated it. I got home, I hated it. Casper gives you 100 days to sleep on it, 100 nights. And then if you don't like it, you can return it. They have to do that because you're buying online. Now, there are a lot of advantages to buying online, chiefly cost. These are American-made mattresses. They're really great. They come in a box that is small, which is, for apartments, dwellers, a great thing. Mary Jo Foley, you could actually get a big bed in your apartment because you could get it in. I actually got a Casper mattress for my son. He lives on the 3rd floor, with 9 other students at CU Boulder. He needed a mattress, and we had him sent him out a queen. He loves it. He loves it. It comes in this little box that you see here. The Casper mattress is very, very comfortable. Now, they have a scale that I think will help you understand. If you go, oops, I slid into something else. Oh, look, see, you can actually ship a Casper mattress on a bicycle. Free courier shipping in New York City. On a bicycle! 5 days in the U.S., 2 days in Canada. That's your Casper mattress. I am loving it. Vertically integrated, horizontally optimized. A really nice combination of memory foam and latex gives you firmness, but support, but comfort. I don't recommend playing golf on it, as this young woman is. But honestly, if you have any issues, they've got great support, and the price is right. You get a Casper mattress, $500 for a twin, $950 for a king size. Here's the firmness factor. Somewhere in between a cotton ball and a shiny diamond, you'll find the Casper mattress, the Goldilocks standard of just right. And I have to actually say that is actually absolutely true. Casper's marvelous. I want you to try it. Now, we got a deal for you, $50 off, if you use Paul and Mary Jo's code WINDOWS at Casper, CASPER.com/Windows. Casper.com/Windows. Great mattresses made in the U.S., really comfortable, easy on the back. You're going to love your mattress. And if you don't, you got 100 days. And if you don't, they'll take it back. No questions asked, no charge to you. Free delivery, painless returns. You don't have to lie down in a showroom. Get to know your Casper mattress at Casper.com/Windows and use the promo code Windows for $50 off. Direct to you means you really save at Casper.com. We're talking Windows 10. Mary Jo Foley, Paul Thurrott. During the show last week, Mary Jo, right as the show is on, everybody's downloading the new version of Windows 10. I know you're not a beta tester.
I'm not.
Yeah, they announced it right in the middle of the show. Like,
Man,
literally
really?
funny.
Yeah, pretty funny. But one thing we learned, no Spartan browser, no Project Spartan in there, yeah.
Even though they said there was going to be. No.
When are we going to see Spartan? They don't have a lot of time to test it.
No, they don't.
Is it really coming out this summer? And what does this summer mean?
I know. They said this summer.
Could be
I think
September.
it means late September,
19th.
Leo.
Yeah, it could be. It could definitely be then, and probably will be towards the end.
Even if it is September, times are getting short to get Project Spartan out into the world, don't you think?
Yeah. Yeah. Although, right now you can test the guts of Spartan. You can test the rendering engine because it's the same rendering engine that they have available on their website and through IE11.
Okay.
So that is going to change, and we'll mention that in a minute.
Oh, all right. Yep. They've tweaked their browsing strategy?
They have. Yeah, so I guess we can just talk about that
I'm
now.
looking in order. I guess we could. Build 10,041 came out to the slow ring now, and they did ISOs. They didn't have ISOs last week, so that you can now get an ISO.
Yep. And so they announced this week that originally the plan for Spartan was that both Spartan and IE11, the two browsers in Windows 10, would have both rendering engines in them. So both of them would have this new Edge rendering engine and also Trident, which is MS HTML rendering. But now the new plan is Spartan is only going to have the new engine and IE11 is only going to have the old engine. So this is good news for people who are worried about Microsoft doing the whole two browser thing all over again, and it was going to be really confusing. So now if you're going to use anything other than the desktop version of Windows 10, so Windows 10 on mobile devices, on very small tablets, you're only going to get Spartan on those devices. If you are a user of Windows 10 desktop, which means all-in-one desktops, PCs, and many laptops, you're going to get both a IE11 and Spartan, but IE11 is almost never going to be used. That's only for legacy purposes, enterprise apps that have been developed specifically for IE. It's going to be very much kind of the legacy browser. Even though it's part of the OS, it's just going to be there and you're not going to use it a whole lot. So they're definitely moving forward. They said that they've been testing this new engine and they feel like it's working correctly with more and more of the web. And so they're going to change that strategy and they feel confident about that. So I think that the idea is we're all saying, oh, wow, we can't test Spartan, but people have been testing Spartan through the channels, at least on the rendering side, and they know it is working. We just haven't seen the UI in a build of Windows yet. So the things like is the URL bar on the top or the bottom. We haven't seen those in a public build. We've seen them in some leaked builds. So I actually don't worry too much about that.
All right, good. That's good news.
Well, famous last word.
Browser is kind of where the interface to the outside world is kind of an important part. These days, maybe the single most important piece in an operating system. So.
Yep. Agree.
Yeah. Agree. What else? Let's see. One Windows. Is it really one Windows? This is about the...
This is one of my pet topics. Don Box did a great speech at WinHEC and basically outlined what I've been saying all along, which is that one Windows is not really this new thing. It's more of a progression or an evolution of what they've been doing before. And that, with Windows 8, the Xbox One went out, was based on Windows 8. The Xbox 360 was based on a previous version of Windows NT, kernel running on PowerPC, which is messed up, but whatever. Windows Phone was based on Windows 8. Windows 10 is sort of one OS, and it's really not one OS. It's one core OS, one app platform, and of course one store that will work across all the back. But I mean, honestly, this is an evolution, not a completely new thing. And even within the Windows, as we think of it for personal computing devices, there are going to be some very sharp differences. Something like Surface Hub, which will have a customized UI of its own kind. PCs and tablets, which will have their own UIs, and they'll transform depending on what the device is doing at the time. And then there's the Windows 10 mobile OS, which will have its own user experience as well, based on the user experience of Windows Phone. And so, these things are all the same but different. And it's not. In some ways, I think it's important for Microsoft to push this one Windows concept, but on the other hand, I think it sort of undercuts the fact that we're not doing exactly the same thing on all these devices. It's not always exactly the same.
Sigh.
You seem discontent.
Now is the winter of our discontent made glorious summer by the Hamburger button.
So
this is a debate we're having internally, by the way.
Are you really?
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, man.
And we've decided against the Hamburger button, although...
I actually think the Hamburger button makes plenty of sense.
I think so, too. But testing shows it does not. So explain what you're... what's going on here. So, you especially in mobile OSs and on smaller screens where real estate is at a premium, you need some way for the user to go and find uncommon commands, but you don't want them up there just taking up space on the screen. Right. So in Windows Phone, for example, we have these app bars, and I think it was Windows Phone 8. They allowed a mini version of the app bar where you could only see like a little ellipsis in the corner, and you would tap that and a menu would come up, and you could access those commands that normally would be basically hidden. And so I think the one area where the Hamburger, well, there's two areas where I think the Hamburger button makes the most sense. One is it works pretty well consistently across different screen sizes and orientations. So it works on PCs, it works on little phones. And two, it's familiar.
people
it's in Chrome,
understand it. And I think that's actually because
here's the hamburger button. They call it hamburger. Yeah. It's 3 lines, so it looks like, I don't know.
It's a menu is what
it's a menu. And I think people know in Chrome when it's on the far right, that's going to give you the Chrome menu. Let me show you what we decided, and this is the first time anybody's ever seen, and it's not much, but kind of what the nav bar will look like on the new site. We decided on more instead of a hamburger button when it's full screen and there's room for it, right? But when it's mobile responsive, so when you get to a certain size,
it becomes
it has to, because there's no room.
So by the way, that's actually a very good implementation
compromise
of this kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And as it turns out in Windows 10, the reason I wrote this article is because they're documenting the native control in the Windows 10 SDK that provides exactly what you just showed. And it's got its own name. It's not called a hamburger button, but it literally can work exactly the way you just described it or demonstrated it.
That's mobile responsive. That's how things are,
this is the right way to do it. It's good. In Windows 10 apps, if you think about an app like Xbox Music, which hasn't yet been updated, or the Photos app, which has, or the Maps app, that pane, that kind of sidebar, can be displayed like you just showed in a full screen on a PC-sized display. But on a mobile device where it's maybe portrait orientation or whatever, you don't want that thing displayed.
Here's John Constein's TechCrunch article from a year ago. Kill the hamburger button. It's evil. And a lot of user testing. Now, this is maybe nowadays people are used to it, but for a long time, people said nobody knows what that is and no one clicks on it.
So the thing is, I honestly think that people now do understand it, and that's kind of what puts it over the top.
Yeah.
I think that's what does it.
Yeah.
But man, the people who hate this thing,
oh man,
they hate it with a burning passion.
Isn't that funny?
And they can't even explain why. They just hate it.
No.
I think it's fashionable to hate it now.
Yeah.
I love what we did, which is we use human text until we can't.
Yeah. Yep. That's a good idea.
Yeah. Microsoft's been using the three dots. Right.
As does Android.
I don't find that.
That's and I think that's why they're going to the hamburger button. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. But you're right. People who hate it, hate. It's like
people will say, one of the if you're right-handed, you're holding a phone. It doesn't matter how big it is. Your thumb can't reach the upper left corner of the screen very easily or at all. And what they're saying is, I need to use 2 hands to hit it. To which I reply, right. It's not supposed to be something you hit by mistake. It's the stuff that's in there is not the most common stuff you need. That's why it's there.
Yeah.
And on a mobile device, why the upper left corner actually might make the most sense, because you're holding it in your hand. But yeah, I find the whole notion of this debate to be fascinating, because I usually, like technical people usually have a really strong opinion about almost anything, right? And you would think, I would think, I mean, I look at I'm like, I should have some really sharp opinion about this. And the truth is, like,
yeah, because you're kind of a designer. You have this heritage.
I have to, for me, what I keep falling back on is it's consistent. It just works the way people expect it to. People understand it. One of the problems I had with Windows 8 was that those Edge UIs were non-discoverable. You would do them by mistake. You didn't know what you just did to cause something to trigger, and now you couldn't repeat it. It was like the absolute worst kind of UI. Whereas I think this kind of UI, which they actually use in the current version of Xbox Music and Xbox Video, to do what you just showed, to kind of collapse and expand a pane of commands, of additional commands, it's fine. People get it.
The smaller the issue, the bigger the debate. Isn't what it's well known.
For example, we all know how to pronounce GIF, so let's just move on.
The less it matters, the more heatedly people will fight over it.
So
Leo,
true.
you ignorant slut.
How many angels can dance on the head of a pin? That's what I want to know.
Well, your theorem is fundamentally flawed because
welcome to the internet, kid.
12:15 it says clearly.
Yep.
So,
let's talk tablets and where's the cutoff for Windows 10 for desktop, Windows 10 for tablets? What are we going to see? No one knows.
I honestly don't think we know exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, so I'll pose this as a question to Mary Jo. Like, what do you think? We know that Windows 10 Mobile can only be on devices up to 7.99 inches.
Right. Yep.
What if you want to sell an HP Stream 7 next year, 2.0 version, right? It's running Windows 10. Does that thing come with Windows 10 Mobile? Does it come with Windows 10 desktop, whatever they call that? And could it come with either? Could Windows 10 Mobile run on Intel, or is it only available on ARM platform devices? How do we break down this stuff? These are not easily answerable questions, by the way.
No, they are not. But we do. I am pretty sure Windows 10 Mobile will run on Intel and ARM-based small tablets.
I think you're right.
But Microsoft has they've said it'll run on small tablets. I think in some slides at some various shows they've said Intel and ARM. But you, Paul, you had a thing. I remember I read so many things when I came back, but you said something about when Windows 8.1's purchased with Windows 8.1 with Bing is on a mini tablet, that you're going to be upgraded to Windows 10 desktop, not mobile.
That's right. That's right.
And a lot of people don't realize that, I think. So if you have that particular SKU and you're one of the people who's looking for this free upgrade, you're not going to get Windows 10 Mobile, even though you're on a very small tablet. You don't
even get that choice. So here's why. It's because of the way it's licensed. Windows 10 Mobile is not something you could buy as an upgrade. If it were, then you would be able to get that. You can only get it on a device, and it's serviced differently. And this kind of goes back to the One Windows thing, where it's not really One Windows, because these things are different. And I think that a lot of people with an HP Stream 7, just use that as the obvious example, because the way I understand it is a year from now, most likely that would come with Windows 10 Mobile.
In the future, when you get a brand new SKU, it'll be the mobile one.
I mean, I think we would all agree that that kind of device, even an 8-inch device, frankly, would be probably better served for most people for it not to have a desktop, even as an option. That shouldn't even be there. And so I do think that HP Stream 7, 2016 edition, whatever, will be Windows 10 mobile based and will be Intel. But those guys who bought it this year, $99, right? It's cheap. The desktop is really tiny. You get little, you can't you can't do anything.
Really
on
hard
it.
to see.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very strange kind of thing. And then, look, I mean, PC like the ones that we're using today, like traditional laptops, desktops, whatever, Windows 10 desktop, it makes plenty of sense. The really small devices, I think, Windows 10 mobile makes plenty of sense. I think this area in the middle is the interesting part too, because like a Surface Pro 3. With Continuum and tablet mode, and you unclip the keyboard, and now it's in it's like tablet OS, and you clip it back, and now it's like a PC OS. How people react to that functionality and how well it works is going to do a lot to determine how successful Windows 7 is.
10.
Windows, what did I say?
7.
Yeah.
7, 10. What do you care? What do you know?
7, 10. It's some number. And,
some number. But not 9.
Not 9.
Anything but 9.
Not 9. It's not 9. So we'll see.
Will consumers have choice? I mean, will you be able to look at one 8-inch tablet and decide?
Well, the breaking point is 8 inches. And so if you have an 8-inch tablet, you get Windows 10 desktop. You just do.
Okay. There's no choice.
I mean, you can run it in a tablet mode. Everything's full screen, but the desktop is still there. And that tablet you could dock, you could plug in a keyboard, and it would kind of turn into a computer, like a PC.
Right.
But I don't think most people want to do that. And so I sort of wish that Windows 10 Mobile was more broadly available, I think is maybe the big point here. Than it apparently will be.
Another sigh.
Confusing. It's confusing.
I love this show because I learned so much.
Really? Because all we do really is raise questions.
I know. It's like, do we know the answer to this? No, we do not.
I think we do know something about the usage of a Windows Phone.
Yeah.
Where did this come from?
This is from AdDuplex. Every month comes out with the usage stats. This is not Windows Phone usage compared to Android, iOS. It's usage of particular phones within the Windows Phone ecosystem. And not a lot changed this month. It's 96-point-something% Nokia/Microsoft devices. Huge percentage running on Windows 8, Windows Phone 8 Plus, which is actually pretty good news from an upgrade perspective. And by the way, very different from what we see in Android. Low-end phones rule. There isn't a phone on there that's a high-end, at least worldwide, that's a high-end phone that's in the top 6 ever. And there aren't any phones sold over the past 2 years that are high-end phones that are in the top 10 at all. And so, Windows Phone usage by and large is low-end devices. And related to that, Microsoft just released a new low-end Windows Phone for $70.
Yeah,
They're cheap.
You haven't tried it, have you?
No. No, the last the phones that they've announced, the 430, the 532, 432, I don't remember the numbers anymore, whatever they are. No, I have not tried any.
I like the one they sent me. The what is it? 635.
635 is a good one. Yeah,
it's not. I mean, it's not. I mean, it's a low end.
It's missing a couple of things. My understand. I don't know if you got the new. My understanding is there might be a new version coming with 1 gig of RAM.
I have a bigger problem with some of the proximity sensor missing type stuff like that. Some basic sensors that are missing. This new low end phone is the first Microsoft/Nokia device to have a truly abysmal, like sub 5 megapixel camera, which is just unprecedented. But I guess you got to save money in some ways. But I mean, it has a gig of RAM, which is smart, and 8 gigs of internal storage, not 4, which is really good. But I mean, the main camera is 2 megapixels. That's crazy for a Lumia device. That's never happened before. But you have to save money somewhere.
Yeah.
Shall we move on to more WinHEC China tidbits?
Oh man, this is like a back-to-back. All me.
I know.
I'm sorry.
All you, Paul.
I can do the first one if you want.
Why don't you do?
Go for it, Mojo.
Yeah. So Don Box, we mentioned him earlier in the show. He's a guy who's been at Microsoft forever. He's a distinguished engineer, and he's been kept totally in the dark from us lately. I'd say for the past 4 years even.
Yeah,
he moved over to the Xbox team, and we never heard from him publicly again. And now they're starting to let Don Box speak again, and this is great because Don Box always has a lot of really great tidbits when he talks, and he shares a lot of things that we need to know, and somebody has to say them. One of the things he said at WinHEC China when he was talking was that Microsoft has come up with a replacement term for Metro-style apps. You know how they couldn't use the word Metro anymore? We were calling them Metro styles. Then we started calling them universal apps. But Don said at WinHEC China that they are going to be called Windows apps, which I've heard a lot of people hating on this idea too. But you know what? Universal apps in the Microsoft world, they mean Windows apps. That's what it means. It doesn't mean universal apps going across all platforms. It means apps, Windows Store apps that are just for Windows. So they're going to call those Windows apps, he says, and they're going to call what we've been calling Win32 apps Windows desktop apps. I actually like this naming convention. I know they're going to be haters for it, but now at least we have a way of referencing this when we talk about it moving forward. So let's hope Don is speaking for the whole company when he said this, but he did say this publicly.
Two things I would just add is one, the actual app platform you referred to is, as you kind of alluded to, Windows universal apps, right? To differentiate them from truly generic universal apps.
Right.
He also very specifically described Win32 apps, desktop apps, again and again as legacy, as we still support this on desktop PCs only, because we have to, and there are decades of background there and all that kind of stuff. But just to be clear, because people like, the Metro Modern, whatever thing failed, and we're moving on. It's like not exactly. I mean, like everything else in Windows 10, this Windows app platform, the Windows Universal App Platform, is really just an evolution of Metro, of Modern. It's really just the next gen of that. It is an evolution. It's not a new thing. It's not, we're going back to the desktop. I mean, for all the desktop orientation of what Microsoft's been talking, Windows 10, his talk, you can go see it for yourself on Channel 9.
Yep.
Very, very much de-emphasizes the desktop. I mean, it's spoken to as something we're bringing along because we have to, but that's not where we're not advancing it. We're not, doing more with that. It's all universal apps or Windows apps.
That's all you have to say?
That's all on that item.
Developers. Oh no, wait a minute. Edge gestures.
Trackpad.
Yeah.
So these two go together.
Trackpad and edge gestures. New UIs in Windows 10.
This has been amazing to me, and I you know what? I don't know why this is amazing to me because I see this everywhere, virtually universally. Everyone hated Windows 8, right? Except for one thing. those people that didn't. And so in Windows 10, they're changing all of the edge gestures and the precision trackpad gestures, which are related, right? And the reason they're doing that is because the functionality you see when you do things on the edges of the screen is different because they've gotten rid of UIs that used to be in Windows 8. So Windows 8 had a switcher UI for switching between apps. It had a charms UI for accessing, system menu items, essentially. And then it had that UI to accommodate that ellipsis thing we were talking about earlier, where there are app bars, but they're hidden by default in Windows 8, which is just a crazy way to do it. It's like, imagine if you ran Word for the first time and it came up as a blank window and there were no toolbars at all, and you were wondering, where's the save button and where's all the stuff? Oh, we hide them by default. It's hilarious. Yeah. And to display them, you have to know the special code, which would be if you have a mouse, you right-click it, or if you have a touch screen, you swipe in from the bottom of the screen. It's all changing in Windows 10. And you would think, and I should say there are associated gestures that go with the trackpad as well that are all changing for the same reasons. You would think that the world would just celebrate this, that there would be people partying in the street. We have banished the witch that is Windows 8. And you know what? The truth is, no. There are people who really like how Windows 8 worked with regards to tablets especially. And they think that what's happening in Windows 10 is a step back and a mistake. And they want Microsoft to go back and put charms back in and put the edge gestures back in. And they want it to work the way that they're used to. And I am fascinated by this because I just spent the last 3 years dealing with just Windows 8 hate. I hate it from all quarters. And now, of course, what comes out of the woodwork is some people like the way it works. Of course they do. Like, that shouldn't be surprising. Mary Jo, you look like you just saw something horrific.
I'm having all these weird Skype things happen right now.
Oh, it's not what he's saying. It's just, well, you look great.
I'm seeing
Mary
everything
Jo.
pixelated.
No, it was like
it was
like when someone's reacting hard and it kind of freeze frames. It's like,
it'll get better, as they say. It gets better, or Skype crashes, or it doesn't.
Kidding.
How's that?
Yes.
Is that better? Yeah.
No, kind of.
It's probably you, but it could be me. Is it me? It's not you. It's me. Can we just be friends?
Sounds better now.
Okay. Good.
I don't know what's happening, but.
Of course, people are going to raise holy hell, aren't they? When you change the gestures and everything, that's going to make people nuts.
The thing is, like, not very many people are using those systems.
Even know they exist.
Right. Yeah. And, like I said earlier, they were non-discoverable. Not that that matters if you've discovered them. And you like them,
That's the problem.
I look at what they're doing in Windows 10, and I think it makes sense.
I really like Windows 10. I love the notification bar. I'm just loving it.
Yeah.
It's so much better.
I think it is better for the majority of people. And with Windows, if you think back to Windows 8 and the stuff I would have said about Windows 8, I mean, Windows 8 to me was kind of hilarious, because it was so weird that a company as conservative as Microsoft would do something that's nuts. And they were clearly barreling down this track at 900 miles an hour, and all we could do was just kind of hold on and let it happen. And so, my advice at the time was, Windows 8's kind of inevitable. You'd better just get used to the way it works, and we can complain about it, and then eventually we can buy these third-party utilities that kind of fix some of it, and that's a good thing. But you can't really fight reality, And then, of course, with Windows 10, they're changing it because everyone complained about Windows 8, right? But not everyone, because now, like I said, I mean, some of these people, I don't know, they really missed the way Windows 8 worked. It's interesting. I guess there are fans for everything.
Developers. I felt
Where have we heard that before?
A little Balmer moment come over me there. Windows 10 SDK is now available. That's good news.
Yeah.
We can
that was kind of a surprise even. I think a lot of people thought we weren't going to see that until build.
Right.
So this is the preview version of the Windows 10 SDK plus some other Windows 10 developer tools. Came out earlier this week, and you can use them with the latest Windows 10 build and Visual Studio 2015 CTP6. So people are starting to poke around in the SDK to see what's in there. There's a lot of things for developers in terms of how they can kind of collect information on what users are seeing and some of the adaptive UX stuff. So a lot of the early bits that people need to start writing the apps now are there, and people can start building things for Windows 10 when it's out later this summer. So that's good.
That's good.
Yep.
Azure App Service? That's got to be you.
It's me.
It's
yep.
you.
That's me.
A new Azure App Service.
Yeah. So this isn't even, quote, new. What Microsoft's doing is they're taking 3 of the existing Azure application development services. They're taking the thing that's called Azure Websites. They're taking Azure Mobile Services, and they're taking BizTalk services, which are the BizTalk integration, application integration services that they have now, and they're combining them all into one development service. The good news for people is it's going to cost the same as just Azure Web Service, Azure Websites does now. So they're reducing the price, and you can use it to build all kinds of apps: web apps, mobile apps, business apps, what they call logic apps. So it's just meant to make things easier and cheaper, supposedly, for people who want to build apps that run on Azure.
Good.
Out as of this week as a trial, I think.
Take that, Facebook.
Yep.
There.
Yeah. Take that.
Take that. Azure. Let us take a break. Come back with the back of the book, because we're almost done.
Yep.
Did you have any good beer?
Mostly bad beer, but one
Really?
very good one I'll tell you about.
Oh, good.
On the
Really? So you were in
later
Vietnam
part.
and Cambodia, right?
Right.
Thai beer is supposed to be good. I don't know.
You know, all these beers are very light lagers
Yes,
because
yeah,
they're
yeah.
meant to be eaten
It's
with
hot.
really spicy food
Right.
in hot climates.
Yeah.
So there's nothing that fantastic about them.
Yeah. You're not gonna make a chocolate porter
No.
in Da Nang.
Yeah. Right.
No one would drink it. Our show today is brought to you by a fine company. Perhaps you've heard of them, called Nitro. I've been talking a lot about them. This is kind of your alternative to the really, truly horrible Adobe Acrobat. For individual users, for large enterprises, I love Nitro. I started using it, and it's got all the features I want in both PDF Reader, but also PDF Creator and the PDF Editor. You can view, you can create, you can prepare and sign PDF files. I love the, just as an example, God, this really, I don't know why, but this really hit me so nicely. So I like to, one of the main things I do with PDFs is add a signature. You know, people send me a document and I have to sign it. And, of course, they have, a signature stamp I can use in Nitro. But the way you get the signature in is so awesome. So you can actually, I sign with a mouse. If that in many cases, that's all. It doesn't really matter. You can import an image if you have one, or you can, and this is what I did, and I love it. You can sign a card, hold it up to the computer's camera, it will scan it, and turn it, and now you've got their signature. It's awesome. And it looks great, and you could, it's transparent. It really works well. And they have a signature font you can use too. One-click PDF conversions to any Microsoft Office format and back again, completely round trip. You can add text anywhere in a PDF document, even if it doesn't have fields. You can easily connect and host documents in the Nitro cloud, allowing you to securely complete transactions with legally binding e-signatures. That's nice. It's easy to make PDFs. They have a virtual printer driver that lets you print to PDF. They've got the cloud and the pro, and there's so many interesting things, and boy, a lot of big companies use these. It is kind of like the ultimate in PDF editing and creation tools, and it uses a ribbon, so it's very familiar. It really integrates beautifully with Office. You can transform any scanned document or image into searchable, editable PDF with their excellent OCR software built in. It's great for collaboration with markup and review tools. About 500,000 businesses, including half of the Fortune 500, are using Nitro. I want you to try it. Go Nitro, GoNitro.com/twit to learn more about Nitro and their document solutions. And as a special offer for fans of Twit, get that free trial for 14 days. You do not need to give them a credit card. Try Pro or Cloud. You'll love it. Nitro. GONITRO.com. GoNitro.com/twit. I know many of you have been looking for an alternative to Adobe's products. I've tried them all. This is a great one. GoNitro.com/twit. It's the one I use now on all my Windows machines. Paul Thurrott, time for your tip of the week, my friend. What? Why are you shaking your head?
Sorry. I had all this stuff running.
Mary Jo's gone, so I think you have to take over the show.
She's gone.
Well, we'll call her back. Something's going on with her.
So last week, Microsoft added OneDrive integration to Xbox Music, which I'm sure we discussed.
We mentioned it. Yeah, and you have all your music there. You were prescient. You were prepared.
Yeah, so that was kind of cool. And so, since then I've been experimenting with how this works, and it actually works really well. But there's a neat feature on Windows Phone 8.1 that had been there already. In fact, it's easy to miss. When I initially saw Microsoft discussing this today, I misunderstood what they were saying. But if you had an Xbox Music Pass in the past, you could sync your playlist on Windows Phone so that as the playlist was updated, those updates would always come down to your phone, meaning you could keep them offline. So if you were on a plane or whatever, you could listen to them. And so that feature has been updated to support OneDrive-based music as well. So instead of just going into a playlist and selecting the songs or selecting the whole playlist and saying, let's bring it down, down to the phone and I'll have it on the phone, you can actually check a box in settings. It's kind of hidden that will keep that thing synced so that as it's updated, the new songs will also be synced to the phone as well. And so it's mentioned in an article here, but basically you just go and look at the playlist, go into settings. By the way, using that tiny ellipsis menu we were mentioning earlier, hit the ellipsis settings, and you'll see the box for keeping that thing synced up. And so that's kind of a neat thing to do if you're using Windows Phone like I am, and Xbox Music. And then the software pick this week is Windows 10 build 10, how do we say this, 10,041, which shipped last week to the fast ring people, only in upgrade form, but is now available to slow ring folks, but also in ISO form. And so I had spent some time last week investigating and then starting to write a tip about how you could use the upgrade files that Microsoft gave you to create your own ISO and then do these clean installs off an ISO. But the more I got into it, the more I realized this is a really temporary solution. It's not worth the effort. And then sure enough, exactly a week later, they released the ISO. So if you've been holding off and doing a clean install on this because you couldn't before, now you can. Just grab the ISOs. They're available for free from the Windows website.
Yeah, that's the easiest way to do it, I guess, especially on multiple machines. If you have the ISO, you just put it on a USB key or something.
I find it so much. I mean, for VM installs especially,
if
you just want to, you want the clean install. You don't want to do an upgrade.
Yeah. Well, in fact, I use the ISO to get started, and then I've been doing upgrades since then.
Yeah, but you can, but if you haven't done it yet, you can start right.
It's the best way to. Yeah, you need it actually.
Yep.
Code name pick. Oh, Mary Jo Foley, I hear a sigh. She's back.
I see an internet connection problem.
I'm back. Do you guys see me okay?
Yeah,
or no?
yeah. Go. Just quickly talk fast. Give us a couple of code names before you fail.
Yes. I know. I keep losing my Skype connection. I don't know why.
Well, they thought you weren't in town, so they turned off your internet.
I think that's it.
Yep.
Yeah.
The super came in and turned off the heat and the internet.
First day of spring, the heat goes off.
Exactly. Yep. First pick of the week is both an enterprise pick and a codename pick. Double win. The codename is Tuva. Tuva. What is Tuva? Does anybody know?
Well,
is
yes.
It a place?
It's where the Tuvan throat singers come from.
Oh, you were doing that at the start of the show, weren't you?
It's kind of a weird coinkydink. I was.
It is. Tuva.
It's like near Tibet, I think.
Oh, is it? Okay.
I think so.
Interesting. Tuva, according to some tipsters of mine, is the code name for that Windows Server 2016 Nano server that we heard some leaks about a couple months ago. So the Nano server is a very stripped down version of Windows Server that's made, what did they say, made for the modern web or something, that it's going to not include rolls as part of it, and that it's meant for people to use kind of in a minimalized way. So all I know now that I didn't know then is the code name for that is Tuva. So that makes me believe that leaked slide deck that told us there was going to be a nano server is in fact valid.
It's in the Russian Republic. It lies just in South Siberia. But yeah, it's the Tuvan throat singers come from there.
The Tuvan homeland.
Yeah, the homeland of the Tuvs.
Tubes?
I don't think they're the Tuvs. I just made that up.
Okay, good.
It's the geographic center of Asia. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I'll play some Tuvan throat singing when you do your beer pick.
Okay.
Do you have an enterprise? You have a second code name. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So that was the enterprise / first code name pick, and the second pick is just a pure code name pick of the week. It's called Project Milky Way. This is another little gem from the WinHEC China slide deck. NeoWin is the one that I saw publish this. Project Milky Way, there's a slide that says the goal is to, quote, delight users by keeping their mobile devices updated with the latest release within 4 to 6 weeks of when we release it.
Neat.
As we know, as Windows Phone users, this has not always been the case. Microsoft releases stuff and we get it months or years later. So we're hoping that this Project Milky Way is a way that Microsoft is trying to put a little more pressure on the mobile operators maybe and the handset makers to say, it would be really good if you guys would do more frequent updates. We're going to make them available more frequently. We hope you will make them available to users more frequently.
That's hilarious, by the way. But I'm sorry.
Yeah.
They were going to call it Project Snickers, but they decided.
Exactly.
Just the notion that after all these years we're going to work on the good intentions of the wireless carriers is
we know better than that.
That's amazing.
We know
maybe
better
that's
than
why
that.
it's like Milky Way, like something sweet that you would love to have happen, but
That's something we're never going to reach.
yeah, that could be it too.
So
aspirational.
I was hoping you would do a delicious beer from Southeast Asia, but
but there are none.
instead, I give you some delicious singing from Southeast Asia.
Good. Yeah.
It's not quite Van Halen, but it's in the same category.
See, he's doing the thing. He's coming out of his mouth, whatever that is. That's sound. She's not impressed.
That's incredible.
It's moving, isn't it? I think you'll find it truly. I actually got lessons in Tuvan throat singing some years ago. Didn't work out. I was hoping for a second career. Anyway, moving on. Beer. Let's talk beer.
Okay.
Beer me.
So, I'll first tell you a quick beer story from my trip on my vacation. There was a Windows Weekly listener, I think I told you guys before I left, who said, hey, my brother has a brewery in Ho Chi Minh City that he just started.
Oh, cool.
And I went to it. We found it.
Yeah.
And it was unbelievable. It's like up a really narrow stairway. It's hidden away. And they have this amazing set of craft beers that they're making with local ingredients, like coffee from Vietnam. They made a coffee beer.
Oh, neat.
They made stuff with mangoes, and it was so amazing. It was like you were in an American craft bar in Ho Chi Minh City. It was fantastic. It's called Pasteur Brewing, if anybody ever goes there. Fantastic. But my beer pick of the week is back from the United States, and it's in honor of Dr. Pizza, who I heard filled in for me last week with a tea pick of the week. Is that true? He had a tea pick?
He did. Adagio tea is a very fine bergamot.
Nobody was particularly proud of that moment.
Earl Grey.
Yeah. So I thought we'd go back to
so
a
we
beer
fired
pick.
him.
We fired him.
Oh, thanks
You're
for
out of
coming.
here. No beer pick?
You are out of here.
So my beer pick
You have
is
violated
from
the spirit and the letter.
He did. beer pick is Pizza Boy Brewing, a real brewery in Erie, Pennsylvania that makes amazing beers. And I had a sour of theirs called Eternal Sunshine recently. And, it's spring supposedly now, so why not drink some sours, which are fantastic. Very citrusy, if you like citrusy, lemony flavors. And Pizza Boy Brewing is starting to get their beers more into New York now. So if you're here visiting, you can find them a little more easily.
I love the name.
I know, Pizza Boy. It was so good. It's like one of these names you're like, is it supposed to go with pizza? No, it is not. It's just a very nice sour.
It's not. All right. Wow.
Yeah.
97 is the ranking on what is it? What site is this?
Is that Rate Beer?
Wow.
Yeah, so it's very highly ranked.
That's about as high as I've never seen anything higher than that.
Yeah. Yep. Very delicious.
Well, Mary Jo and Paul, I think we've come to the end of this fine episode.
I think we
I know
have.
when I'm being dismissed.
You, my
Get out
friend.
of here, guys.
Now, wait a minute. Before we go, though, something's coming up. You're going to be in town, right? Mm-hmm. Tell me about that.
We're coming for
I'm
Build.
like, what are you talking about?
What?
Build.
What? Build? Is Build next week?
No.
No.
Until the end of April.
God.
End of April. Okay.
I've been blocking this one out.
I know. It's
So-
coming up.
Not that I don't want to go to Build, but
it's
Build
normally-
is right on top of Ignite. So
Yeah, you will.
Yeah.
You first
I have.
must destroy,
Yeah, I mean-
then you can build.
I don't think I'm going to have to go right from one place to the other.
Where's
I mean,
Ignite going
it's
to be?
Chicago.
Well, it's on the way.
It's on the way. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
It is on the way home, but still, you know what I'm saying. I mean, this is 10 days of travel now.
Yeah.
Well,
Yep.
what?
Yes.
That's on a Wednesday, and you want to be at the events during our normal broadcast time. So we're thinking
Yeah.
we'll move you to maybe Friday.
That would be the correct
Would
time.
Friday afternoon work for you? Would you be able to get up here in time to do a live show?
I believe
All
we
right.
could make it happen.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think so.
All right. Well, I mean, we got some time to figure it out.
Yeah, I think that's the current. That would be the current plan, I guess. right?
We'll probably swap in before you buy, which is currently recorded Friday afternoons, and put you in, and that way we can have a party.
Yeah, that would be fun.
So and golly knows this is going to be a huge deal.
Yeah.
So we want to get
It's
you.
going to be big.
Yeah. In fact, bring up anybody you can grab along the way.
We will.
We'll do. It's been fun.
Yeah.
And I'll have to plan a trip, so I'm not here. But
Right.
Yes, when
You
yeah,
haven't been
Germany,
here yet.
I have missed them all, and I am not going to miss this
That's
one.
true. Yeah.
Because you gave me a heads up. I will make sure to be here. I don't even work Friday, and I'm going to come in just for you.
Oh, no, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if the excuse is Leo's not here because he doesn't work Friday, we
It's my day off. You were asking me to come in on my day off to talk about Windows.
Sure.
And I'm going to do it.
I think it's going to be a great show. I
'Cause
think
I
there's
love
going to be
you
a lot
guys.
of
No, I'm excited. I'm very excited.
I think there's going to be a lot of fun stuff.
And I would like to reiterate, I am so far really liking Windows 10. I cannot wait to hear more. And I can't wait to get it on all my Windows PCs. So, my friends, we do Windows Weekly normally Wednesdays. That's 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Mark Zuckerberg permitting, 1800 UTC. And we'll be back. Zuckerberg, he was very, you know what? You should thank him. He wrapped right at 11 so we could do the show. We didn't get.
That's true. It didn't run long.
Did
That's
not
true.
run long. He was precise and on time. It was less than an hour. We will actually be covering tomorrow's keynote, which will be more interesting. That's going to be the Oculus Rift keynote at F8. Yeah, that'll be fun. 10 o'clock tomorrow morning Pacific time. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Mary Jo. Paul Thurrott's at Thurrott.com. That's 3 T's, a U, a couple of R's, and an O.
Don't forget the number 4.
Number 4. We love Paul, and we love Paul's news site, Thurrott.com. Everybody should go there. He's at Thurrott on the Twitter. Mary Jo Foley is at allaboutmicrosoft.com. That's the place to go to get the latest Microsoft news. She's also at Mary Jo Foley on the Twitter. Thank you, guys. We'll see you next time. Welcome home, Mary Jo.
Thanks.
On Windows Weekly.